You basically have one chance. You don't have money to like get the player come back to your game. Just one update and everybody hates you. That's it.
This is a conversation with Youge Wen, aka Bearlike, the lead developer of my favorite strategy game of all time, Mechabellum. The game is now published by Dreamhaven, co-founded by Blizzard's co-founder and former CEO Mike Morhaime. We talk about the death spiral for online multiplayer games.
The death spiral is like really, really strong and really, really scary.
Game design, game balancing, and we also exchange some advice for each other.
Complexity for me is always a downside. My advice for most people is don't do it. It's very painful.
I found it extremely enjoyable, and I hope you do as well. I don't know where to start. It's so awesome that I get to talk to you, because Mechabellum is seriously probably my favorite strategy game of all time. I have like 500 hours in it in Steam now, and
wow.
I mean, that's like rookie numbers, I'm sure, for some people. Some probably have way more. But still, it's like one of my comfort games that I just come back to whenever I just want to play something chill. How was this game made? Were you there from the very beginning?
Yeah, there were just two of us. It's 2017. Just me and my friend. We know each other for a long time. I just call my friend like, I have this idea. I think it's gonna be great. By the way, the idea is nothing like what Mechabellum is right now. But there's some similarity between the original concept and the end product, but it's very different.
Was it already an auto battler? Was the idea already to make an auto battler?
Yeah, back then there's not the word auto battler is still not there. I'm just what my idea is, I'm gonna make a strategy game. It's gonna be a competitive strategy game, but it do not require very high APM. That's my goal, and also I want it to look epic. So that's it. Basically, yeah, like you can don't require high APM, but have a very deep strategy. That's the idea I have like for a really long time. At that time, I do played some other, I think nowadays we call it auto battler. But back then it's just some tower defense and some, I don't know what Clash Royale are. Probably an auto battler, and then tons of Warcraft 3 custom map. I like those maps, and it's always have a lot of great idea in it. So back then I want to make this game where like you're gonna combine the strategy with Mahjong, the Chinese board game. I'm not sure if you know Mahjong, what Mahjong are. It's like
these little white bricks where you have to find the two matching ones, something like that, right?
Yeah. Basically, you are building your deck, and also it's a strategy game on the board. And we have like made a prototype, and then we found like the two goals actually don't really mesh well together, because in the end, I want a deep strategy game, and if you are focusing too much on deck building, it's gonna hurt the strategy interaction with your opponent, because you can only focusing your energy on so many stuff. You cannot focusing on all. Like the deck building process is essentially a more self-contained process. So I want a more interactive game. I want it more about countering your opponent and all that stuff. So we remove the Mahjong part of the game. Although I do have the prototype where we have the Mahjong tile on the screen, all that stuff. There was a poker variant in between. It also fails. So
like a poker strategy game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Imagine like every Mac have is also a poker card, and if you have a royal flush, your Mac gets stronger, something like that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
but in the end, I think I like countering and strategy interaction too much for it to be a deck builder. So we slowly change the game to what it looks right now. And back we learn a lot. Like at the beginning, a lot of modern auto battler, you can move your piece, your unit wherever you want. We were like that at the beginning, and it take us probably a year to understand. Like we do not want to want the unit to be moved at any given time, because it's actually destroying the strategy here. Because it's more like if you can move your unit anywhere, it's basically impossible for your opponent to counter your formation. So we tried a lot of different technique to encourage people to do not move their unit. Like if you don't move your unit will double its HP next turn. Oh, that's all kind of stuff. But in the end, something hits me. It's like I don't really play a lot, but I like the idea of the game Go. It's also an ancient Chinese game. You just
it's a really good game, yeah.
Yeah. I think your audience know what Go is.
Of course, okay. Yeah, they do.
Yeah. So in Go, you cannot move your piece. Whenever you put down a piece, it is there, and it became part of the board, and it provides information for both players to analyze. And so basically, you are building the board together, that's the key. That's the key of like adding more information onto the board, so both players can strategize around the given information. And I think if Go can succeed with all the pieces not movable, we can too. So, but it's kind of strange. Like they are mech, they should be movable. But in the end, that's the solution we find. Makes most sense. You just don't allow players to move the unit, and it immediately makes the game more strategically deep. That's a good change, but it's also makes a lot of problems. It brings a lot of problems, all the traditional board game like Go, like chess, they are very, very snowbally. Because you cannot move your piece, or if you lose your piece, you lose it forever. Round one advantage gonna be very huge in later round. We put a lot of energy to solve that. We are not totally succeeded yet. But this week, on Thursday, there is a patch where I think we kind of figure it out a bit. I'm not saying we're gonna solve it, but kind of, 7 years later, we kind of solved a little bit of the round one problem. So for Mechabellum, there is round one, there is not enough information on the board. So there's very little strategy, round one gameplay. And also it's very snowbally, because if you put your stuff on the wrong place on round one, it's going to affect all the future round. So this time we just set up some buildings on the map as map element. You can form your strategy around the buildings on round one, and this will make round one more strategically deep and nice snowbally, because the buildings can kill units. So you will not lose too much HP there. So
yeah, so you don't want the game to be decided in the first round, essentially, right?
Yeah. If you watch chess players, if you don't know how to play chess, you can ruin your board on your first move. The first move immediately ruined.
But I find it very interesting, because this is a very common problem in strategy games, is just how snowbally they are also. Because especially, I think in digital strategy games even more so than with board games, because in digital strategy games you often have the component of economy, and the economy also has the potential to snowball, right? But for Mechabellum, you at least got rid of that. Everybody gets the same income, more or less. At least that can't snowball.
At the beginning, we I studied most of the strategy game a lot, and then I realized, I think I read it somewhere, but at that time I fully understand the concept is in RTS games, in PvP RTS games, you don't really win. If you play PvP RTS games, the win condition most of the time is destroy all enemy buildings or enemy units. But in 99% of the time, you do not reach that win condition. You just frustrate your opponents enough, he quit. That's the 99% of the
time. You're right, yeah. The victory condition is that you get your opponent frustrated.
And that I was never thinking it's that way. But then I understand, I rarely destroy all my enemies' buildings. They just quit. like, wow, this game sucks. I quit.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of like about the snowball nature of lots of this kind of strategy game. So that is one thing we want to avoid. So every unit gets to reborn every round, and you don't have you don't get punished economically. Because of this, we lost a lot of strategy elements and a lot of opportunities. Like there's no econ unit or econ buildings in the game. And because all units always come back the next round, you cannot really change your opponent's board. It all have very big implications. But in the end, I think if we avoid like always frustrate your opponents to quit problem, I think it's kind of worth it.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that sounds like something that's probably not good for long-term retention if like every other game ends with you being so frustrated that you just quit. Yeah, interesting point. Yeah, I don't really have that in Mechabellum. In Mechabellum, you basically have these two health bars, right? Everybody has a health bar, and often it feels very, very close, where it's like, I have only a slither of health, but I know that I can potentially turn it around if I maybe survive another round or something. So oftentimes it's not like... I think it happens very, very rarely that people are so frustrated that they give up. I think it happens a lot more often that you think it's very close and you're like, damn it, I got a bit unlucky there or something like that. But that's kind of fine. You just go again.
That's totally one of our goals.
So it was just the two of you at the very beginning. Did you use a game engine or did you code everything from scratch, or what was your approach there?
We were using Unity. We are still using Unity. Well, the reason is we both of us, at least I have like Java programming background, and Unity uses C#, so it's very close. So that's one of the reason we choose Unity. Other than that, it's just Unity seems easy to use. Overall, we don't have many complaints about Unity. It's okay. For Thronefall, what's your...
Thronefall is also in Unity, yeah.
It's also in Unity. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you made the very first prototypes in Unity as well. And did you already have networking at the very beginning? Like, was it already online, or how did you test the first ideas?
We introduced networking at a really early stage because at the beginning we wanted it to be a multiplayer game. So that's why we introduced networking that early. And also because both of us, we have the MMO developing background. So networking is not that hard for us. And also because we have very simple networking. So that's why we introduced those very early. Like we think about technical difficulties right at the beginning. From the design point, we already minimizing all kind of potential technical difficulties. That includes networking. Like we want to design a game that requires don't have a latency requirement. Like if you have a working internet, you can basically play, and you can play people from all over the world. And it shouldn't be latency sensitive, and it shouldn't be server costly. So that was one of our goals.
So is the way the networking works, like if I had to guess, you only basically send where the units are placed, right? You don't network all of the unit positions. You just network where was everything placed, and then you probably have a deterministic simulation that recreates it on every machine. Is that how it works, or how does the networking work?
Yeah. We basically have like every RTS that basically you only notify your opponents your action. Like we only like both players say their opponent's action and simulate on their own computers. That's basically what we are doing, and because we are also turn-based, so this is like the networking is like insanely low. It's probably lower than Hearthstone, lower than card game. so it's, this kind of design also help us with server cost and also anti-cheat because it's turn-based. So and also because both players run simulation, like if both player agrees to the same battle result, the server don't really get involved. Like if you think you win and I think you win, then there's no need for the server to verify anything.
Yeah.
Only like if someone is cheating, and both player like two player reports different battle results, then server gonna come in to decide who is cheating. And also because it's turn-based, we don't update enemy board unless you hit finish deployment. So you can't really, if you have to finish your deployment, then you will receive messages about your opponent's board. So basically, we don't really have a cheat issue, and the server cost is pretty low. So that's how we, and we want it like that right at the beginning, because we are not that technical savvy. Like we both are programmer, but I would not describe myself as a very good programmer. I think.
Okay, but it's inherently very cheat-proof, just in terms of the architecture and how you set it up. I see.
Yeah,
well, that sounds really cool. Do you think if I want to make a new strategy game or something, would you recommend making an auto battler? It's like, would you say making an auto battler is like making a strategy game on easy mode, or
depends on what kind of auto battler? But if you want to make a competitive PvP strategy game, my advice for most people is don't do it. It's very painful. There's reason behind it. I will detail the reason.
Yeah.
Like the first incident is don't do it. Like, run as fast as you can, and like live service PvP competitive strategy game. That is very painful to make, and because there's a reason you already know. There's a reason I can't tell you more. And all that stuff. But with that being said, if like any game, if you really want to do it, you should do it. But if you have multiple options, then live service competitive PvP games is like, especially strategy game, is not my recommendation. But if you want to make a PvE single player or co-op auto battler, that is, I think that is easy to make. Relatively, that is easy to make, because inherently auto battlers have very strong replayability. And I think for indie developers, because you don't have a big team, you will be content wise, you will be lighter unless you have a highly replayable game loop there. And auto battlers is easy to add replayability to auto battlers. So if you want to make a PvE games, auto battlers, that's relatively easy. But if you bring in PvP and bring in live service, and basically if you want a PvP game, it has in this day and age, it has to be live. It has to be a live service game, and it's very painful to run a live service game unless you have a big team to support you. Even with a big team to support you, it's still painful. I think. I think it's still painful. I think like for Dota, I think Ice Frog probably is tied into Dota for like 10 plus years. Like I think he probably can make other games if he's not making Dota. But so it's very painful. And also like in our lifetime, how many 10 years do you have? Like if you are making live service game, you're probably gonna make like 4, maybe 3 games your entire career. That's
it needs to be a game that you really, really love in order for that to be worth it. Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
What would you say are the main pain points for developing Mechabellum? Like, what are the main problems that you solved or that you're still fighting with?
The live service nature actually costs us a lot of time, and basically because it's a PvP game, you have to have a certain size of player base. For a single player game, even if you just one person, he can enjoy it. But for a PvP game, you can only have 2% enjoying it. You just can't.
Yeah.
Because you need to match in for different skill, different time zone, and all that stuff. You have to have a rather large player base, and that is like very painful to maintain. Like everything you do, you can't like push out a bad patch and then push a good patch, and everybody comes back.
So basically, once the engine breaks, once there are no more players, it's like extremely painful to get it back up again, right?
Yeah, it's I don't even know who have done it. Like come back from the death spiral. Basically, this is a death spiral. Like for a PvP game, the less player you have, everybody have a worse time because the matchmaking is not working as well as before. So player will find gets more and more difficult for players to find the right match. So the death spiral is like really, really strong and really, really scary. And everything you do, you have to consider, don't push your game into the death spiral. And also this threatens you right at the beginning. Like right at the beginning, I think many games like died right at the beginning. Like if your launch is not as good as it can be, if there's something happened, even like stuff like that's out of your reach, if you have a bad launch, it's very hard to come back. So that makes the game design very difficult, because on one hand, you need to release update as often as possible, so to keep the player base there. So on the other hand, if you have a bad update, you also lose the player base. So if you take too long to make an update, you are already in the death spiral and you are died.
Yeah.
If you don't take long enough, then this update is gonna put you into the death spiral immediately. So there's this very fine line where you update as often as you can, but you need to like never had a really bad update. Yeah, I guess if you are a big franchise and with a lot of people behind you, you can somehow overcome that to a certain level, but not always. But if you are a small studio, you basically have one chance. Like one bad update, you don't have money to like get the player come back to your game. Just one update and everybody hates you. That's it. That's it. And you also don't have the personnel to like answer to every community questions, all that stuff, manage the anticipation and all that stuff. So don't really recommend developing a game like that. But there is an upside here. There is very little PvP strategy game in the market. So if you manage to make one and it survived, there's very little competition there. So basically, there's not much choice there. Like if you want a Roman-themed Mechabellum or a fantasy-themed Mechabellum, there is none.
Yeah. True. The reason is because the competitors already died in the death spiral. Probably.
Yeah.
Or they didn't
on the
try.
other hand, just also don't make that much money for the big companies to try. So
you can only really make a game like this if you're really passionate about it. If you only care about the money, you'd probably make something else, right?
Yeah. I think so. Also, it depends on what you are good at.
Yeah.
Like probably will not make a competitive first-person shooter. Basically, I'm not like, I do play them, but I don't really good at designing them. Like when I play Counter-Strike, I don't have a design idea in my head pop up. But when I play a strategy game, there's a lot of idea pop up in my head. One thing is probably what you really are good at. This genre is definitely not something that even if you are not good at it, you want to try because it makes you so much money. Like you need to like it, and also be good at it. And that's basically, you need to understand yourself and also understand your goal to But I guess that's true for every game, I guess.
Yeah, probably, yeah. Yeah, so you mean the most scary thing about making a PvP game is just this constant threat of the death spiral, and you're kind of stuck between two sides, not releasing enough updates, but then you can also not afford to release a bad update. And I guess one thing that also plays into this is balancing, right? Because you probably need to rebalance every now and then because the meta starts getting a bit stale maybe, or people start figuring out new overpowered strategies or something. But then you also can't really afford to make an update that messes the balancing up even more. How is your balancing philosophy like in general? Like, how do you approach balancing?
Well, I think for everything I do, like if I want to do it seriously, the first thing I do is I need to understand what is exactly is my goal here. For a lot of developer, when they do the reason they are having balancing issues is they don't really understand what is the goal here. Like for Mechabellum, is our balancing goal is make every unit have the same usage percentage, or is every unit should have the same win rate. That's all of those are not our goals. Our goals is first the goal for it is for the game to be fun. And if you looking into the deeper goal, there is a goal that we need the game to make enough money so the company can survive. Yeah. But other than that, it's making the game fun. Making the game fun, meaning even if there's only one unit that everybody use, but everybody is loving it. Wow, I like Overlord, and use Overlord is making me happy, and everybody is using the Overlord. Fine, that's definitely good balancing. There's a example for this. We have this unit hacker. In all balancing data, hacker have less win rate, lower win rate and lower usage percentage than any unit by a long shot. And we don't really want to change that. The reason is there's a certain percentage of players really hate hacker. So I'm not after in the every unit is playable. If people hate it, okay, let's make it weaker so people use it less. And when you're balancing, you have to look at the backend, the retention data, the usage data, all that stuff to understand what stuff people is enjoying more and what is the major pain point. And in general, yes, more variety makes the game more fun, but that's just in general. But in reality, there are a lot of edge cases. Variety shouldn't be your number one goal. Fun should be your number one goal. If less variety means more fun, then find less variety. So that's what our balancing philosophy. And then we have this double red and the double green theory. Is when you look at the unit stats, there's two stats we are focused more on. One is win rate, one is peak rate. And if a unit have a higher win rate but have less peak rate, we don't really think that's a problem. It's okay. If a unit have a lower peak rate and a lower win rate, we think that is potentially a problem because people it's weak and people think it's weak. But a hacker is at that stage and we think it's fine. So if a unit at this, we call it double green because in China, lower is green.
Okay.
We call it,
I see.
We call it double green, means have a lower win rate and a lower peak rate. That's unit gonna be on our watch list, but we are not necessarily gonna change it. And if a unit have a higher peak rate but a lower win rate, that means people think it's strong, but it don't really win that much game. And also, then that's also fine. It's okay, people love the unit and think it's strong. And what am I gonna do about it? I'm not gonna change anything with that. Because the player who pick the game, they pick that unit, they are happy because they pick the unit they likes, and their opponents actually win small, so their opponent is happy. So why I shouldn't intervene? We have many units and specialists that have a high peak rate but very low win rate, namely the giant specialists. Giant specialists always have if it's not top one, it's gonna be top two peak rate. and its win rate is always like bottom 3. Like the thing is, people like giant big robots fighting for them, and if they can use that, they can, like, even if that means they win less matches. So I'm not gonna change that. That's cool. Yeah. That's cool. You're like a big robot, and your opponent wins a little bit more. That's cool. So the only part where we definitely want to change is like the double ride situation, where you have a high win rate and a high peak rate. It means people think it is strong, and it is strong, and this gonna definitely hurt the variety. Like a unit being weak is gonna only affect that unit itself. Like basically you have one less unit in the game. We have 30 units, so one less unit is okay. But if you have a unit that's super strong, it's gonna affect every single matchup, and you basically, instead of 30 units, you only have 1 unit. If people are not having fun with that 1 unit, then that's a problem. So the double ride is where we definitely gonna focus on. But other than double ride, we always like a player can do whatever they want, and we don't want to force variety. Like the giant specialist, everybody like pick it. Just let player pick it. We don't want to lower the pick rate for the giant specialist. That's
And how did you design the balancing in the first place, right? When you came up with all of the units and when you created all of those units in the first place, did you try to create like some rock, paper, scissors system, or were you just like, oh, let's just make a bunch of cool robots and see how they interact? Or how did you plan that, or how did that evolve?
The design process for the units actually is not very well. It will be interesting for game developer, but for players, it won't be very interesting. We are not designing cool robots. Like I have this spreadsheet where I have all kind of parametered variables, where like low HP, high HP, and a huge amount, and a very little amount, and long range, short range, and all those combination. I generate from the combination and I pick those like most distinct from others. And also I have this spreadsheet function where they just generate the stats automatically. Like my goal is like if you have a long range unit and you have short range unit, and one-on-one they should kill each other at the same time. The basic stats should be like that. No matter if you have a big, then because long range unit have a higher chance to like concentrate the fire, their fire, and to eliminate enemy units before they get closed in. There's some certain percentage of data favoring the melee unit, all that stuff. So there is this spreadsheet. There's just all kinds of variables, and that spreadsheet generates all units data. So it's kind of boring, I think. Yeah. So
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and in the end, we do tweak the data because that spreadsheet definitely cannot do balancing properly.
Yeah,
but it can generate the baseline.
Yeah.
It can generate the baseline, and we have some. Then we change the data manually, and whenever we change it, we mark it. Like why do it? Like for example, if we raise units attack by 2. Or maybe 2%. In the spreadsheet, they're gonna be because of something +2. That's how we do it. So every time, like when you're deviating from the baseline stats that the calculation generates, you have to state your reason for it. Like for 2 long range units, one is having a slightly higher stats than the other. Then you need to state why it is that way in your spreadsheet. So this way we can always remember what happened here, what happened there, all that stuff. And also balancing wise, we don't really design counters. Like we do have this basic counter. The basic counter is high damage counters single target, and AoE damage counters crowd, and also crowd counters high damage. That's the rock, paper, scissors there. We don't really design units for counter, like design this unit to counter that unit. What we design is like, if you remember my spreadsheet, like what we want is every unit have their special roles. Like you are very unique from the other unit. If you are unique enough, you will have special counters. Like you will counter something very specifically, and also you will get countered by something very specifically. As long as you are unique enough, there shouldn't be balance issue. And in the past, traditionally, the unit we are having balance issue is always the all-arounder. Like don't really have the weakness or don't good at something, but it's in the end it can be good at everything. In our studio, we have all this, like what is healthy, what is not healthy. Like for example, for melee unit, increasing its HP is not healthy. You should be careful. And for long range unit, and especially high frequency long range attacker, increasing its damage is not healthy, and you should. The not healthy not mean we shouldn't do it. That we need to be extra careful. Like for a long range unit, increasing its HP is kind of fine. You can like have your fun, and in the end it doesn't matter that much. But if you are increasing its attack, then you need to be very, very careful and have a very good reason. So there's a lot of rules there, but they are not really rules. They are kind of like a guideline. So whenever we have meetings, we remember those guidelines. Some of those I come out. Some of those rules we have that at the beginning, but a lot of them is just what we learn through the years, like by making mistake, all that stuff.
Okay, so you're not like, oh, we need a counter to this unit, so let's design a unit that counters this unit. You're more like, let's have a look at the spreadsheet. Oh, there's a free spot. We don't have a unit with this range and with this attack and with this movement speed. That could fill a role or something.
Yeah.
But then
we literally have the spreadsheet.
I think that's a cool technique. And then you say all of the obviously there are counters, right? But they're not designed. They're more like they are created emergently. They just appear kind of.
Yeah.
And I always found that interesting about Mechabellum, because a lot of other strategy games I know, including my own, like Thronefall does this as well. Units have tags. Like, for example, they will say armored, or they will say biological or something. And then there are units that deal bonus damage. For example, plus 20 damage against armor.
There are stats, that kind of stats? I have no idea. I played Thronefall for a long time. I have no idea there are armor types in Thronefall.
Yep. That's the case in Thronefall, because it's like at a certain point you're like damage. You run into the same problem that you described. One of the units you can build is just stronger than everything else in every situation. So at some point you just go in and you're like, okay, the hunter now deals bonus damage against monsters. So now whenever there are monsters, you should maybe build or prioritize hunters. So there are some things like that. Or the berserks with their axes, they deal bonus damage against siege engines. And I think in Thronefall we don't do a very good job explaining that to the player. Like it gives you some hints in the short description, but you're right, it's not very obvious from the information we show. You kind of have to figure it out. But it's interesting in Mechabellum that you manage to get a lot of interesting counters without any of that. It's just range, health, movement speed, and of course the tags of the units. But that seems to create a lot of interesting counters without like forcing it artificially, it feels like.
Yeah. And I'm not sure it is right choice. Like we have been experimenting armor type for a really long time. Like if we ever want to make a fantasy version of Mechabellum, we definitely want to try like magic armor and physical armor stuff. Like it's we just don't really find the right armor mechanic. At the beginning, yes, we want it to want the interaction to be observable without understanding armor types and all that stuff. That was our goal. But after a while, the game became more and more complicated, and we want there to be more strategy and all that stuff. We definitely want some armor types there, not necessarily like armor weaker to certain stuff, but we want easier to understand the armor type. Like your armor is like, if you have armor, then high frequency, low damage attack should be less effect against you. That kind of armor, that I think that is like kind of easily to understand, and also add bunch of depth to the game, but we just haven't figured it out.
I mean, there are armor tags that work kind of like that, right? You can, like some units have armor tags that reduce damage taken by 20 or 20 per level or something like that, or 60, I think it's even.
Yeah, 60, yeah, that's in my opinion, that's not a very successful attempt. The reason for it, like that mechanic is actually I learned that from the StarCraft 1. I think StarCraft 2 works the same. Like basically, you have armor and you just ignore certain amount of damage. The thing is, Mechabellum's units, their stats is so different. Like a crawler, like a fan have like 100 plus HP, and I think Fortress have 50k stats. So and so the attack difference is so huge. The armor basically became countering not a type of attack, just countering certain units. The armor basically counters Mastin and Fan.
Yeah.
That's for me. That means this solution is not elegant enough. It's basically a special rule to counter certain units. So it's kind of not what we want. I hope I can figure it out maybe next year or something. If we can figure out how to do armor properly.
How do you think about the tags of the units? Right. So do you not want? Do you think it's kind of a waste of a tag if you say you have a tag that counters only 2 specific units? Do you not want any niche tags, or do you want them to be more generally useful?
Yeah, in my design philosophy, I don't want stuff that only counter like 1 unit or maybe 2 unit. I want it like it counters certain characters, counters certain aspect. Like if you have this kind of attribute, you are gonna be countered by this tag. That's basically, I don't want to think tag as a counter to unit wise. It should be counter some kind of stuff, certain kind of stuff. That's where, because if you design it like this way, there's a lot of counter you are not anticipating can happen. And I think players always like smarter on this aspect. They will find a special use for certain tag and stuff. So I always try to design tags for them to counter certain, like you are countering high HP. Yes, you are countering low attack rate. Yes, that kind of counter. Yeah.
And oftentimes, some tags even come with advantages and disadvantages, right? Like higher damage but reduced fire rate or something. So you kind of make some trade-offs there.
Yeah, I think trade-offs there is like generally we don't really want to do it unless we have to. Like because it makes the game more complicated. Like for some people that's interesting. But I think like the opportunity cost is already a trade-off. Like you can pick this first, then the next tag gonna be you can't pick that tag this round, and also the next tag gonna be more expensive. That's already a trade-off. So we don't really design around trade-offs, but sometimes we have to. Like And
I guess there are some different ones. Like there's one for the marksman that almost turns the marksman into a different unit, like assault marksman, I think, right? It's like a shotgun. That can be quite interesting, but also I guess if there's too much of that, then it could also be frustrating. So I get the philosophy behind that.
Yeah, the max, I like that max tag, but that is one of the tags that have the longest description. I usually am not a big fan for long description. So but sometimes like the assault marksman is fun, so it's worth it. So for everything we design, there is always a complexity and fun ratio. Like a feature can only be as complex as it is fun. If you are fun enough, then yes. If you're not that fun and you add a bunch of complexity to the game, then I don't want you. So that's my another
the fun to complexity ratio needs to be correct, basically.
Yeah. You're like not correct. Like there's one way, just as fun as you can and as simple as you can. Like the right ratio is infinitely more fun. That's the right ratio.
Yeah.
But to a certain threshold. So basically, in our team, if you come up, like I noticed some designers, they think complexity is fundamentally fun. Like learning the mechanic is already fun. There are certain designers like that, and there are players that like to learn stuff. But for me, I think it isn't. The complexity isn't fun. Complexity for me is always a downside. You need to like bring a lot of fun to offset your damage to the game.
Do you balance the tags the same way, where you're like you basically just have a look at the win rate and the pick rate of a tag compared to other tags, or do you have a different way of balancing those?
We basically have the same strategy there, but for tag we are much more tolerant with like high peak rate and high win rate tag, like because a unit can have multiple tags. So if you have a high win rate and high peak rate, but because your unit is not being used that much, then it's okay. Like for tag, the balancing isn't that strict because they are something that you can only have when you have the unit. So if the unit is balanced, then the tag is not gonna be too far off.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so you basically also have to look at the unit if you balance that, of course. Yeah, makes sense. All right, so I guess another big question I have for you is which advice would you have for me if I say I want to make an auto battler, like a competitive one? Despite your warnings, I want to make a competitive auto battler. What advice would you give me?
I think I actually have this right down. Let me check.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think if you really want to make one, and first you need to understand your own goals, and I guess that is part of understand yourself. Do you want to make a competitive auto battler, or do you want to make a competitive game, or do you want to make a auto battler? And is it okay for that game to like not be competitive, or like for that game to not be live service? And as you like 2 years after the game release, it went into the death spiral and become a cult classic.
And your advice is probably, if possible, don't make it a live service, don't make it competitive if you don't absolutely need to.
Well, that depends on you. Like, because I know people who enjoy it, like have a community plays his game and he's balancing it. He have fun balancing it and have fun communicating with the community. I imagine as Frog probably falls into that category. Like basically it depends on the person. So basically know what you really want is like very important. And like, because I also know people who don't really enjoy communicating with the players. If you are making a live service game, you need to be thick skins and need to laugh off all kind of personal attack, all that stuff. And I know people who are like good at it, like who can like shred off all kind of like very bad attack from people. Understand what your goal, what you are imagining yourself in. Like this sounds like sounds like human resource. What do you imagine yourself in 3 years? that's
like in a job interview, right? But makes sense.
Yeah, like what do you really enjoy doing? And so in the end, if you are enjoying make live service, auto battler, and also PvP, that's if you are enjoying it, sure, definitely do it. After you understand yourself, your goal, you need to understand the technical side. not even the design side. I think the technical side is very important because it is live service, it is PvP. You need to understand, do you have the team to do it like a low latency game? Like for example, for Mechabellum, we can have all battlefield power be released during a battle. That definitely can be a design choice, and that can make the game more fun. But it can make the game less fun. But that's definitely is a choice there. Like we should be experimenting. Like release a battlefield power during the combat is more fun or not. But we never experiment with it. Why? It's a technical limitation, not just a technical limitation on our end. It's a technical limitation on physics. Basically, there's people from all over the world. There's gonna be latency between them. If you want people to play with each other seamlessly, no matter how good your tech are, if the battlefield power is released real time, then people have a high latency between each other, gonna have a big trouble playing with each other. So you need to understand that there are technical difficulties and limitations. There are also technical limitations on the teams, which are much greater. Like you need to understand how good are you with programming. Like if you want like total war like unit count on your screen, are you technically capable of that kind of programming? And do you have the team to do it? All that stuff. The limitation, understand your product, understand your team is very, very important. And like, do you have the if you want to make an auto battler with like, let's say 100 different units, do you have the artist? Can your artist make those quick enough? So I think this probably is boring for players to listen. I think, but I guess this is interesting for game developers. Like, well, for some game developers don't really like to listen to this kind of stuff.
I don't know. I think a lot of game developers have the dream to make a competitive multiplayer game at some point, and I'm wondering a little bit like if you have to make a competitive multiplayer game, which is very difficult, then maybe an auto battler is still one of the easier ones you can do. Or do you have any ideas for something even easier than an auto battler when it comes to competitive multiplayer?
I don't think auto battler is the easier one. I think basically competitive strategy game is like very hard to crack.
Okay.
One of the hurdle there is monetization. Like competitive games are difficult to make and maintain, and you're gonna need, if it's a live service game, you need income. And for competitive strategy game, it's very hard to monetize them. And you're probably gonna have a better chance to make a FPS game. Like we have new competitive FPS game come out in the last 10 years, like lots of them. But new competitive strategy game, especially from relatively smaller studios, it's very rare. Unless you want to make it pay to win, then there's a lot on mobile. There are a lot of competitive pay-to-win mobile games. If we go that route, that's gonna be easier. But you want a fair competitive strategy game, that's gonna require a very large player base, and that's gonna require a monetization method that can support you. And if the competitive game is your only, is what you want. Competitive strategy game, especially auto battler, is probably not the best choice, especially for auto battlers. For most auto battlers, it requires a lot of characters. So if you can see all the auto battler in the field that actually makes a lot of money, they basically have have a lot of character model already made.
Yeah.
Their power already designed, and also they have a player base already familiar with those characters. So for those kind of auto battlers, it's not possible for indie game developers to make, because even if you have the power and the staff to design so many characters, people just do not recognize them, and that make understanding the gameplay very, very hard. But that is just the auto chess, TFT, Hearthstone battleground route. Like you definitely have other routes like Mechabellum. Mechabellum is like really have relatively less units and also have less complicated units. So if I would picture a auto battler that actually for indie developer to make either it should be fantasy or be historical, because for like if you make a Roman theme auto battler, like people already know what legionary, what cavalry is, what phalanx are, and what they should be countering, all that stuff. That's building knowledge, and I think that can work. For fantasy, it's gonna be harder. You need to do a classic fantasy setting, like, but those fantasy setting, I think that those are well known enough, so you can kind of design that, and also it can be a blend. Like there should be historical tropes and also fantasy elements. I can see a game like that working. That definitely can work. I think you need to understand, like for example, I see so many attempts on this kind of auto battler, especially on mobile. For example, they have their power be real time. I think that's most of the time it is a mistake for power to be real time, or maybe command part of your unit in real time, all that stuff. That's definitely is gonna be a problem. And also because of this, like for a game like that, there's a lot of unknown territory. Like it take us 7 years to make Mechabellum into 1.0 because we just do not have something like we can directly learn for. Like we need to learn from so many different stuff, including Go and all that stuff too. Like there's a lot of problems that is not there, not solved by other people before. But if you are making a FPS game, it's probably like there are a lot of stuff you can learn from other people.
That's true.
And
that's true. But there are also more games to compete with, of course.
Yeah. And that's exactly my point. Is like it's gonna be harder to make, but it have less competitions. For the FPS games, like if you are using Unreal, it's not that hard to make a semi-decent FPS game, but you have lots of competition there. That's my understanding. And also strongly recommended don't do the TFT style auto battler because the market is not that big and it's already saturated with TFT and Hearthstone battleground, all that stuff. It's not a. I think that market is already full and very competitive. But if I want to do something like Mechabellum, that there's not that much established title, I definitely can say it's working. But I do understand that by making a competitive game, there is just so much opportunity for you to fail. The death spiral is like really, really scary and all kind of stuff. Like during our development, we actually like encountered the COVID stuff that can also, it's like completely out our hand. Like that's definitely not something we can control. And if you are making a competitive game, your team size gonna be at least a little bit bigger than definitely than Thronefall. And if something like COVID happened, you need to be prepared. Like there's gonna be 1 year where everybody's productivity is low and all that stuff. And there's a lot of stuff can go wrong. But I definitely say like Mechabellum in another, like not Mechabellum, but just auto battler in another setting. I definitely can see it happen, especially for you. I think you are design wise. I think you have excellent idea and you have the expertise definitely on the client side to do it. I definitely can say you succeed like but I think it's gonna take some time. Like,
I think we're probably not brave enough to do PvP just yet. I think we're probably gonna go with some PvE game first. And slowly dip our toes into multiplayer, and then maybe one day do PvP. But I have a lot of respect for PvP games, as exactly for for that reason. I'm also afraid of the death spiral. So I wonder, do you have any tips for avoiding the death spiral?
One thing I want to ask you, are you familiar with the Bazaar, the game, the card game, Bazaar?
I have seen it, but I have not played it. But I've seen some Let's Plays on YouTube.
I definitely recommend. If you are interested with a game that is kind of an auto battler, and also it blends PvP and the PvE together. So I think it's have a lot of good ideas, and I think they are making it working with the offline PvP stuff. And I think in that this actually tie into your question. That is one way to avoid death spiral. Just design your game require less player. If you are design a game like TFT, you need 8 players to play a game, and they need to be at the same level. That's a lot of players. That's like 4 times more than Mechabellum. If you like this time, I'm gonna do a auto battler that also like PUBG. Like we have 100 player auto battler. I think some company tried that. But whenever I say that, I think, well, that's a recipe for disaster unless you are like really, really rich and have like infinite money to spend to recruiting players. Because 100 player for one match, like indie games sometimes only have 100 player in total.
Yeah.
And they all need to be in this one match. What happened to other players come into the game after those 100 people? Would they be able to find a match? So so smaller match size and also shorter match lengths gonna require less players, and that is something we definitely are worth focusing on. Like how can we make it as fun as it can be, but in the meantime make it as short as it can be. So Mechabellum is not a short game, but it is as short as we can. And because short game also requires less player. Like if a match of your game lasts more than an hour, those players who are playing that match are not gonna be free to match up with other players for an hour. That's gonna increase the players count requirement a lot. So avoiding death spiral is like you need to first design your game like require less player count. Bazaar is an example. They have offline PvPs. You basically fight other players' image. Let's say that.
Got it, right? So I think the way it works in Bazaars, you build a deck, and then I think either after every round or at the very end, you basically fight the deck of other players, right? But they don't need to be online at the same time. The deck has just been saved to the server or something, and you get a random one to play against.
Yeah. And also they are ranking it, and also they try to make you fight your friends. More.
Nice.
Like this today, one of my colleagues is like, "Hey, I'm fighting you." Like I said, "What?" Like I say, "This is you." Yeah. So that's also a nice trick. Like you are still cannot have this multiplayer feeling, but you don't really need that many players. Like not just your friend, like maybe you are fighting the game developer himself. Like there will be people like be excited when they match against you.
Yeah.
So all kind of stuff like I'm fighting the world #1 player's image, all that stuff that can work. Like we actually tried a bunch of that inside Mechabellum. For example, the community challenge.
Yeah.
The community challenge. All that stuff. But fundamentally, Mechabellum is a more interactive game. So those are just attempts. But those definitely helps. And also for the death spiral part, I think you are already very good at that. I think you are very good at marketing your game. And that is one thing that always amazes me. Like I was watching your video before you released Thronefall.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. You always talk about indie game development stuff, and also that I think I was always thinking that those not just interesting, also helpful. And so I watched a bunch of your videos, and I was amazed, like, wow, this guy is developing a game and he still have time to do all this.
No, not really.
Not really. Okay.
Yeah, but I guess for me the podcast is part of the solution here, because I can make these relatively quickly, right? Just
true.
Record something once a week or so, and it actually makes for some pretty good content. And also I learn a lot as well, which is awesome.
Yeah. So I just, like, I think you are, like, what you are doing there is amazing, and you are good at marketing, all that stuff. And but in the end, you need to understand, probably to avoid the death spiral, there's a big chance that you actually need a team for marketing, and also for community management, and also to understand for PvP games, early access don't really work. Like, you need to be have a big hit. The first impression is very important. You don't really have like, I'm updating this slowly. That's not gonna help. You need to, like, even for early access, you need to have content already in the oven waiting for release when you are, like, releasing early access. So you don't really, like, because when you are not releasing as many updates as you can, it's really, really easy to fall into the death spiral, and basically you are not gonna come back from it. Like, I'm more closely watching a bunch of PvP games, PvP strategy games, and I like, I have this tendency, when I see the bad reviews on other people's game, I also get angry. Because lots of them are just, like, very reasonable. But I'm very interested with other PvP strategy games development and their monetization strategy and all that stuff. So I'm closely watching all those games.
Yeah, there's obviously an interesting one recently that I'm sure you've always also paid attention to was Battle Aces, right?
Yeah, Battle Aces.
I was really excited for that, and they just canned it before it's even out. Damn it.
Yeah. Battle Aces, and also lots of, like, other strategy, like, especially RTS games, like, those are, like, I'm closely following those, and lots of bad reviews about those games are because there's not enough players. Not enough players gonna hurt you really, really hard when you are running a PvP game. And if you fail your first attempt, even if it is an early access, it basically kills the game. You probably will see.
PvP needs to either be big or it doesn't work at all.
Yeah. That's true. Unless you are doing the Bazaar-style, and
right.
Yeah, then that can work, and also co-op probably is. Like, we are prototyping a new game this time. We want to make a PvE game, co-op PvE game.
Awesome.
So we are prototyping it, and I think it's kind of fun, but it's very early stage. But that's probably can tell you, even the one who made a PvP game are looking for making something else.
I see.
It's not really enjoyable. But I think you are on the internet long enough. You probably already know on the internet, if you are making a PvP game, you're gonna get not just PvP games. If it's a live service game, some people are just bad, but sometimes people are just, like, you never know, because maybe someone just have their dog died yesterday. So they are having a bad day, and then they log into your game and lost, and also your game have a bug. Then probably that means you killed his dog. Then you probably deserve whatever word coming from his mouth and all that stuff. And if you have a larger enough player base, someone's dog always die that day. So you will always have someone
And any update you do will always piss someone off, right? It's impossible to release an update that everybody's happy with as well. So
yeah, it's like someone would always like someone would like it and someone wouldn't like it. We don't really reach agreement inside of our team. Like even inside of a team, for certain balance changes, people have a different opinion. That's just how things are. Like in the end, you have to decide on something. And also, you generally you are gonna make mistake and lots of them. Like you are gonna put generally bad balanced patches.
Yeah,
like it's generally bad. Not that bad that deserves those kind of comments, but you are definitely gonna make generally bad updates and all that stuff. And also people on the internet, I think like several days ago, I was chatting with my wife about why people on the internet is very mean. that I understand. Like, for example, when we watch TV shows and when we watch movies, we always commenting, not always, but sometimes we commenting on like this actor is prettier, that actor looks uglier, and that actor is doing a bad job. And even like children, like this is one ugly children, stuff like that.
Right.
We say that to each other. We won't post it online. We won't say it to the actor's face, but there definitely are ugly actors. So we say to each other like, hey, that children is not very like not very handsome children. Something like that. That's just what we say to each other, and then we realize the internet is just where people are posting what they say to their wife or their friends in private online. And that's where that's why somehow it's always feels meaner on the internet. And also there's a lot of good people there praising your games and all that stuff. But somehow all the bad comments gets you.
Yeah, you're right. In a way, they often talk about you as if you're not reading the comments or something like such trash update. And then when you reply to them, they all of a sudden they have an entirely different tone. I see that a lot.
Yeah. Do you have the experience of managing this kind of stuff? Do you have a strategy there?
I mean, I have. It's probably for Thronefall. It's probably not as bad because Thronefall is a PvE game, right? So it's kind of more forgiving in terms of balancing. But even still, there were some balancing updates that were necessary. So and generally, whenever I did balancing updates, there were always people that were very unhappy with the changes. And I always tried to explain to them what you just said, is that yes, I am going to make mistakes and some things are going to get worse. Like I'm going to make 30 balancing changes. Some of them, like most of them will make the game better, but some of them will make the game worse. Like basically every balancing change you make is like an educated guess in a way, right? So you can't guess 100%, right? You can maybe if you're good, maybe you can guess 70% right. But for some balancing parameters, you just need more guesses to get it right. But for players, it's always like they locked this in. Oh my god, they ruined it for good.
Then I have a question for you. I'm interested with like how do you really balance a PvE game? What's your goal there when you're balancing? And I also like there's always players asking like, can you just keep an old version of that? What's your reply to that?
So how to balance a PvE game? I think the goal is that firstly, of course, fun, right? Fun is always the first thing you balance for. I agree with that. But the second thing you want to balance for, I think, in PvE is that the players have an incentive to use all of the tools you give them. So it's kind of, if you give them 40 different units to choose from, but they only need 5 to solve every problem they encounter in your game, then it's kind of boring. Because the mastery comes from knowing when to choose which tool, right? So you somehow need to find a way to make every tool useful in some situation. It's not like you need an equal pick rate. That's not the case at all. You don't need every tool to be picked equally. You don't need every unit to be used equally. You just need every unit or every tool you give to the player to have some use case. So what I usually do is whenever I design a unit or something, I try to at the very least in my head come up with a use case where I can 100% guarantee that specific unit or that specific tool is gonna do better than any other thing I've given the player so far. But I often fail at this, unfortunately. Oftentimes it's like, the berserk just kills everything, and I'm like, not again. Yeah. But it's surprisingly difficult, but that's the idea. You want everything to have some niche and some use case. And I guess part of that is also you just need the tools to present the player with a lot of different problems so that you can create enough different problems that all of your tools have some use case, right?
This actually makes, because we are trying to make a PvE spin-off, and then I kind of understand like actually PvE players actually have a less tolerant when you nerf something.
Yes.
Like if you're a PvP game, you nerf something, they kind of understand it.
Yes.
But for a PvE game, they always like this is a PvE game. Why are you nerfing my stuff?
Yes. I have some advice for that.
Yeah.
Never try to, like, once it's live, try not to nerf any of the player tools. What you should do instead is buff the enemies. Buff the enemies. You need to buff obviously the enemies in a way that they counter what you wanted to nerf in the first place, right? So if you're like, okay, there's this player unit that's too strong, like the sniper's too strong or whatever, then what you do is you almost try to fix it with the problems you present to the player. You're like, okay, we'll add more enemies that are not vulnerable to the sniper, so now the sniper's indirectly nerfed because we presented you with a different problem. So, for example, one thing I did in Thronefall is we launched Thronefall in early access, and every time we launched a new level, I realized a new thing that was overpowered. I was like, frick, the archers are overpowered. Frick, the ballista tower is overpowered. So then when I made the next level, I would deliberately design the next level in a way where that strategy wouldn't work anymore. I didn't change the actual tools of the player. Like, I didn't change the units or anything. I just made the next level so that just from the level design, it's not as powerful anymore, and you need to find a different strategy.
Yeah, that's smart. But do you ever have stuff like you have to hard nerf?
Yeah. I like the way I figured out that people don't like nerfs is because I made that mistake a couple of times. People really don't like nerfs.
Yeah, that's always scary of me. And also for the suggestions from the players, like they want you to keep an older version of the game. Mm-hmm. How's that? Do you think that's possible?
Yeah, I think it is. I think you can create separate branches on Steam. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that feature. You can just create some extra branches on Steam, and a very, very small percentage of players will use those branches, for example, for speed running, if they want to speed run on a specific version or something. And usually you don't need to make every version available as an extra branch. Usually, like, people very specifically tell you which versions they want, and then you just make those versions available, and that's usually fine.
Okay. So you have those in Thronefall?
I have some of those versions for another single player game I made, Will You Snail, and I think we also have a couple of them for Thronefall. Like, at the very least, we have a rollback branch that allows players to roll back to the previous patch in case we break anything.
Okay. Yeah, there's whole bunch of different balancing problem for a PvE game. We are slowly realizing we were thinking we are gonna try in the easier territory.
It is probably easier. To be fair, it's probably easier. But I agree, there are a couple of different problems. But hey, it's cool that you realized this so early on, that players in PvE games don't respond too well to nerfs.
It's crazy for me to think I'm gonna make a game where I cannot nerf stuff. It's
you can nerf things, but I think it's just not the first go-to solution. The first go-to solution is to change the problems you present the player with. And if that doesn't work, then you nerf it.
Yeah, I'm gonna need a completely different spreadsheet for that. Yeah, my spreadsheet just auto nerf stuff. Yeah, that's gonna make people angry. I need a spreadsheet auto buffing stuff. What do you have any suggestion for PvE games? Like what else should we like understand? Especially we are trying to make very replayable PvE games. What is your suggestion? And after this, I have another developing question. But let's answer this.
I think the PvE market honestly has a lot of gaps. I think a lot of people really, really love co-op games. And the problem with PvP is always that you tend to lose 50% of the games you play, which is a bit frustrating for most people. So I think PvE is just generally really, really cool and also really underserved. I think there are a lot of things that probably can work, to be honest.
So the market actually is underserved because I see many PvE games. Yeah, okay.
I think so. I think the market for PvE games is underserved. There are some PvE games, but you can also see that the PvE games that do a really good job, those games do really well on Steam, and that's because there aren't that many. Like if you have a look at Deep Rock Galactic, or if you have a look at how's the ones with the Space Marines called, damn it, Helldivers too.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of room, but I am assuming you want to make a strategy auto battler-like game or something like that.
Yeah, well, actually, we are making kind of defensive. Defensive strategy game. I'm not sure what's the genre.
So like a base defense game, maybe you could call it something like that.
Yeah, base defense game. Yeah, kind of like Thronefall, but not people on a house, but more like robot stuff. Speaking of that, actually, one of my favorite level is like where you have a castle on a wheel as a boss and rolling into my face, and I love it a lot. So speaking of the PvE games, so have you ever considered add a co-op option for Thronefall?
People ask for it a lot. It's like the most requested feature for Thronefall is co-op. I think this is a good sign. I think if you want to make something like that, people will really, really love it. Yeah.
Okay.
Also, there's nothing like this. Like, which cooperative base defense games are there? Like all of the good base defense games are single player. They are billions and so on. It's like there are some really cool base defense and tower defense games, but there's nothing that is co-op. Obviously, sometimes that makes you wonder if maybe there's a good reason for why. Maybe it's like, do people really want to play these games co-op? But honestly, from the community feedback that I've gotten from Thronefall, it very much seems like people do want to play that stuff co-op.
Yeah,
I think they do.
But you are personally, you don't really considering make a Thronefall co-op.
I think Thronefall specifically will never be co-op because that would basically we would have to rebuild the entire game from ground up to make that possible.
Okay.
Like, adding multiplayer in hindsight is always like very, very difficult, right? But I think for future games, we would consider that, or also for spin-off games, like maybe we make a Thronefall spin-off at some point. It's like the same universe, but it's like co-op. Something like that could definitely be an option.
Yeah.
I personally obviously really like strategy games, and I also like co-op games. So there is a chance that I might make something like this at some point. Yeah.
When I was watching your videos and also reading patch notes on Thronefall, I always like thinking like, wow, this guy like, because I have this feature creep or feature scope problem where I always like want to add more stuff into my game and which gonna make the developing time much longer than originally planned. But whenever I read like Thronefall's patch notes, I always feel like you have a better grasp on the scope of your game, like you define what you will not do very early on. Like you tell people like there will not be map editor and all that stuff. And when I read that, I was like, if I was him, I'm probably gonna be saying that we are considering it. Like then we kind of end up doing it and not as good or something like that. How's you like defining the scope and resisting the temptation to add more? How are you doing?
Honestly, I think I personally am very similar to you in that way that I'm just such a people pleaser, and for me personally, it's very difficult to say no to community requests. But luckily, my colleague Paul is very good at setting boundaries, and I hopefully I've picked up some of those skills. So I think we've just gotten a bit better at being honest about saying no. And when the community is like, "Do we get multiplayer?" We're not like, "Yeah, maybe." We're just like, "Nope, nope, not gonna happen."
Oh, okay.
And
oh well, I guess the lesson is have a partner that can do that.
Yeah, I guess so. Like you're not gonna learn much about that from me, unfortunately. No.
Okay, that's illusion breaked. I always thought you are the responsible one, and that's like I think wow, they just said all those stuff in the patch note. Like this is we will not do, and this is we will not do. I think wow, this guy have definitely is good at this. Like I always think
obviously I've picked up some of that philosophy right along the way. So I think it makes a lot of sense to do correct expectation management, and just if you already know it's very unlikely you're gonna do something, just say you're not gonna do it. If you then change your mind and you do it anyways, nobody's gonna be like, huh, but you said you weren't gonna do it. What the hell? Why did you do it?
Yeah.
You can always have pleasant surprises in hindsight. So it's like just say no, and if you end up making it, like everybody's gonna be fine with that as well. You're not closing any doors by saying no.
Have it thrown, but sometimes it's just not because people are asking. Like I have this problem where I just want to add those stuff myself.
Yes.
Like have you have a Thronefall ever been delayed?
Yeah, I mean, Thronefall was definitely a long project for our standards, but like something like 3 years. It's not too long, right? So it's kind of okay. I think we just had the advantage that we scoped relatively well to begin with. We didn't bite off too much, and we intentionally simplified the game in a lot of ways. We have very minimalistic 3D models. We have a very, very minimal art style. We don't have any textures on the models. Like everything is flat shaded, cartoony.
Yeah,
so we took some clever shortcuts, and that carried us a long way, I think, because we just can make content very quickly. If we make a new unit, we can make a new unit in a day for Thronefall. It's no problem.
True, and you also can resist the temptation of like adding a fix to it. Like I saw like before our interview, you sent me some potential topic. One of the topic is like how do you like keep evolving the meta of Mechabellum? And actually my answer to that is we are not trying to evolve this meta. What we are trying to do is we always want to add something to fix something. And in the process, we break something else, and then the meta just changed. Like we never deliberately want to just like the meta is still, let's change it. We never do that. We just like this time we need to do this to fix this is the problem. And then we break something and we need to fix it next time. So
yeah, I see. God, I feel like Overwatch had that problem where they were constantly trying to fix some of their problems, and they just kept creating new problems with every fix, and it never really landed on a very good spot. Yeah. That can definitely happen. Yeah.
Yeah, like last time when we check out Overwatch, somehow the Overwatch 2 actually have like the loot box animation is worse. Like that's how do you make the loot box animation worse? Like like that's somehow they managed to break it like when the Overwatch loot box, Overwatch 1 loot box, when it's open, there's 4 items fall from the loot box onto the ground. In Overwatch 2, those 4 items just never hit the ground. Like when the 4 items is in the air, and then there's a black screen and change to another UI interface. And we were all stunned and like wow, they must is trying to fix something to cause this.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know what's going on there. I guess they're a very big and very different team now. How big is your team now, by the way? You started out with a team of 2. How many people are working on Mechabellum now?
I just want to add a little bit. I'm not shitting on Overwatch development team. It's very normal to break something when you add something else into the game. That happens all the time. But yeah. Okay. And for your question, we have 18 people working on Mechabellum, but we actually have like 22 people in the office because we have two projects. We have another game, Out of Hands, and which we recently released. But for Mechabellum, yes, we have 18 people working on Mechabellum.
How's the other game called?
How's what?
The other game that you recently released, what's the name of that?
It's called Out of Hands. It's on Steam. It wasn't selling very well, which is kind of odd. It's reviewed really well. I guess we didn't marketing it right. Like if you are a 500 hour Mechabellum player, you still don't know we have another game. We probably failed the marketing.
No, I did not know. Looks interesting. Cool.
Developers, actually made the prototype of that game like 3 years ago during a game jam. So it's very creative stuff and not a PvP game at all. Just like it's a card adventure RPG.
It has a very interesting art style, like a very collage like look, like a mixture of many different art styles almost. Looks interesting.
Yeah. He's the creator of that game is a very creative person. He's like he always make like different. He do different kind of art form, like just inside. Like he like the still motion animation. I'm not sure do know what still motion? It's basically like you slowly move your stuff on the table and record
stop
them.
motion. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Stop motion. Yeah. The stop motion, he makes those like in the office just for fun.
Cool.
like create like funny stop motion little movies. Yeah. So when he makes this game, I just ask him, just you like stop motion animation that much? Just add something into the game. And he did, and people likes it. So it's a very creative game. And reviewed pretty well, but I guess we failed on the marketing side. That's probably
it has 1,000 reviews, which is honestly not too bad. I think that's honestly that's kind of fine for a game like this, because it looks like a bit of an artsy game. Like it's not like a masterpiece type game. It's like a indie lover game, and I think considering that, I think it's doing quite okay.
Yeah. It's kind of okay. But considering we spent 3 years making that, so it's not not as not as good as we wanted to be. But it's okay. Like today I opened the start page of Out of Hands, and I noticed the recent review is already 100. Like I think, wow, I must have done something very wrong on the marketing side to make a game review so well, not selling that well. Like the sales of that game is definitely not good. But people do post a lot of reviews because it actually like it somehow make people want to say something about it.
I see.
So the review number is higher than usual. But however, in the end, it's not a big deal for our studio. But I just wish it sells more. But that's kind of a risk when you are making a game. It's like somehow some game may not sell well. Then, I guess but that's okay. Yeah.
How's the Mechabellum journey going? Do you think you'll keep working on Mechabellum for like 10 more years, or like do you have 3 more years of content planned, or like what are the plans for the future of Mechabellum?
Well, for Mechabellum, I think plan-wise, we plan all the contents right to next year, next spring. Those are already in motion. We are already making those content. And beyond that, I don't know. There probably are. There can be more content for Mechabellum because Mechabellum is still making money for us. So we are updating it, and also it's Mechabellum is like basically everything I'm working on in the past, not decades, but like 8 years to now. So we are like, we want to update it for a really long time. And in the same time, we have noticing like a lot of stuff we want to do probably cannot be done in the scope of Mechabellum, especially Mechabellum 1. Like at a certain point, like the pre-existing context just gonna preventing you to do other stuff you want to do. So we are considering like not just considering, we are prototyping other games like but for Mechabellum, I think there's still lots of content we can add to the game. There's hopefully there's a new game gonna come to Mechabellum at the end of not a new game, new unit come to Mechabellum at the end of the year, and there are we are remaking several other units, like redo the model and the ability stuff. So this year, Mechabellum still have a lot of content coming to it, and next year, I'm not sure as that there. But something always come to my mind. Like whenever I think like there's enough stuff in Mechabellum, then something come to my mind, and I think, well, we have to add this to the game and stuff. That's my problem. I have this kind of tendency. Stuff like the buildings, we are adding new buildings to the game, and like the armor type. If we figured out how to do armor type, not just armor type, just how to do armor properly for Mechabellum, then if we ever figure that out, then there's gonna be a big update for armor. We have a lot of plans for Mechabellum. Also, the Mechabellum universe, like we are, there are a lot of prototyping, early design of stuff that is not Mac in the Mechabellum universe. Well, we say it's like a universe. It's like sounds like very big. Just we want to add something that's not Mac.
I see.
Maybe. I'm not sure if we can add those into Mechabellum 1. We will try, but maybe we add them into like Mechabellum 2 or a spin-off of Mechabellum or stuff. But we are like doing interesting design that should be interacting very well with existing Mechabellum units, all that stuff. That's
okay. Cool. But basically, Mechabellum is making enough revenue that you can keep working on it for the foreseeable future if you want to.
That's it. Awesome. I think I do like games. I do love my games, but in the end, it's a company, and there is 2,000 people here, and in the end, it's like if something is making money, we're gonna support it. If something isn't,
that's how it goes.
then if something isn't, then we're gonna have to do something like to survive. That's the reality here. Yeah, and that's one. I guess that's one reason that this field is not that competitive, because there's not that much money to make here. so
there's not that much reward, but there's a lot of risk. High risk, low reward kind of thing.
But someone probably gonna figure it out.
I think
at a certain time, someone will figure the monetization out eventually. I think there's a lot of people like this kind of game. I think there's not enough resource put into this genre, the strategy PvP genre. That I guess when I was young, there's a lot.
I kind of have the feeling as well. I kind of have the feeling that this genre should work, and the problems just haven't been solved correctly yet.
Yeah.
I think, but for what it's worth, I think Mechabellum is a lot closer to the answer than probably most games I've seen in the past, because for example, what I really like about Mechabellum is that it's a strategy game that really focuses on the strategy and nothing else. Because most other strategy games are also about how fast can you click, can you do 20 things at once. And Mechabellum is finally a strategy game where it's very much about the strategy. And you also infuse the correct amount of randomness into it to create interesting decisions for the players. I very much like that.
Yeah, we hope we are like the correct amount, because the player base definitely don't think it's the correct amount of random.
Yeah, I mean the problem is, of course, that sometimes you lose due to bad luck, right? Sometimes you just get unlucky and you get countered, and but like I think if you play it with the correct mindset and you're like, one match doesn't decide your skill levels, like 10 matches will give you maybe a better idea of what your skill level is against a person, right?
Yeah. I definitely think so. Also, like, don't think like a game as, if a game is as deterministic as possible, it's gonna be very fun. Like, if that's like we have a game where people just measuring each other's height and then we compare who is taller. That's very deterministic, very competitive, but I don't think it's very fun. It's like, I definitely don't think it's like if you always, if the better player always win. I don't think that is something like we should aiming for. Especially who is better is you shouldn't create this standard that measures how which people is better than which people. Thus, which people should always win. That's
I guess it makes it more interesting for both sides if upsets are possible, right? Like if a very skilled person ranks against a not so skilled person and they immediately know the outcome of the game, it's kind of not that interesting. But if there's a slither of chance that it could go the other way, that makes it a lot more interesting for both sides. Yeah. I think. Yeah, I agree.
And also, people are not just one dimension. Like you may have a higher MMR, but maybe my playstyle counters you. Like
true.
Yeah. So it's not like people are not one dimension. Like you are good at something, and you are like slightly higher than me in MMR wise. That doesn't mean you are better Mechabellum player. You just have a higher MMR right now, and that doesn't mean you should beat me in the next match, because maybe I started the game a little bit more, or maybe during this game, I have a genius revelation that I have some very innovative strategy or all that stuff, and then I win. And I think players don't really have something against this kind of sentiment, but the thing with randomness is like sometimes like something can be random to someone, but not random to someone else. Like for example, I'm not like when I visit the village and the farmland, and if there comes a call, I do not know it's a male or female call, I guess. But I guess in English it's different word. Let's come out a sheep, and I don't know it's a male sheep, or a female shape, so it's random to me. So if the shape is random, is male or female, it's random to me. But for another person, he take one look, he knows it's a male goat shape. So it's not random to the other person. So random stuff is like something is random if you don't have enough information, knowledge, or you just don't have the ability. Like for a blind person, a lot of stuff is random.
True.
Like, and like for like you can say people, small children, they play the, I'm not sure, we call it 井字棋, means like you have like a nice square on the board, and you place cross and the circle on it.
A tic-tac-toe?
Yeah. Three, if you have three cross in a row, then you win.
I think that's called tic-tac-toe.
Oh, yeah. If you watch small children play those, the outcome are very random. But if it's adults playing them, then no. So it's sometimes the randomness is tied into how can you process informations. Like maybe the information is there. Maybe there is random, but not as much random as you think that it is. Just
so
simply
do you maybe, is what you're saying kind of that the more advanced players can maybe more easily predict what you're gonna do, for example, or what you're gonna pick if you have a bunch of different cards, then maybe an experienced person knows what you're most likely to pick, and the other one is like, I don't know what the other one's gonna pick. This seems kind of random.
Yeah. something like that. Also, like some people can analyzing, not like it's not even like a more advanced. Like maybe I'm not as high as MMR, as wise as you, but I happen to familiar with these 3 units. And then I will have a better understanding of how to use those stuff to counter whatever stuff. And you happen to just don't as good as like as knowledgeable to those 3 units as me. And when those 3 units come up as like a card to offer to you, then you feel like, well, I have just have bad luck. All these are bad units. Sometimes it's like generally bad for your board. Then sometimes like it is maybe very useful for your board. You just do not know it. And it's not even because you are weaker, you just happen to not know it stuff.
Yeah, sure. Like, I see. So you can run into some funny situations where maybe you think you got unlucky even though you got very lucky, or maybe even the other way around where you think you got very lucky even though you didn't really get lucky. So your personal perception can be different from the reality there, of course.
Yeah, that's definitely true. It's like something like very useful come to you. You may not even realize it is useful. That happens a lot. So the randomness, like in the end, what I think as a developer, what you want to minimize is the feeling of unfairness and the feeling of randomness. Like reduce the actual randomness is like not possible. Sometimes like people, if you describe the concept of paper, rock, scissors, people would think, wow, this game must definitely be so deterministic, so fair, and so unrandom, because you can choose paper, rock, scissors at any time, whichever you want. Like you want to play rock, you can play rock. You want to play paper, you can play paper. But the outcome is super, very random. And like the feeling is like you have 3 choice. You have 3 choice, and you can choose whatever you want. But in the end, it's actually you don't have a choice. Your choice is not play it and play it. If you play it, the outcome always 50%. The 3 choice actually is an illusion. You don't really have 3 choice. That's that's. But if you present this concept, but don't count it rock paper scissors to players, they will feel like, well, I have a say in this. Like I can choose. Like there's always these 3 choices. These 3 choices are not randomized, and I can pick one of them. What's random here? There's no random. Something like that. Yeah.
You're trying to get that feeling maybe in a way into Mechabellum, where you're like, it's random, but it's not supposed to feel random because you always feel like you could have chosen something else.
Yeah, basically you need to give staff control. I think in Europe, you guys are like really hot on football. The outcome of football is like highly, if you are from the stats perspective, the outcome of the football match is very random. Like the higher ranking team can like losing to lower ranking team all the time. And there are people think that football is very random. But the majority of the football enjoyer don't really think football matches are random, because there are a lot of, especially, like for penalty, even like for things like a penalty. For penalties, like really, really random, like so you can score a penalty. But even that is because people have agency in those, even though the outcome is highly random, people still feels like win is deserved most of the time. That is something I'm always thinking, like how can we add something like this into Mechabellum to like somehow give player more agency, so they feels like they have more control. Because in reality, player already have plenty control. From our stats, the higher MMR player already have a very steady win rate against lower MMR players. We are not looking to increasing that. Like we are not actively looking for ways to make higher MMR player beats lower MMR players more distinctly.
You just want to increase the feeling that you have.
Yeah. we don't really want to like, and for people who are asking for that is also like they probably don't really want that. Like for higher MMR player, if you meet a high MMI player, you just auto lose. I don't think.
Yeah, that's
really want that. Yeah. But if we remove all randomness, it should be the case. Like if somehow it's just a height measuring contest, like you are not gonna beat someone who just 2 centimeters higher than you. That's I don't think player is asking like let's make this like someone just better than me and he beats me all the time, or I beat someone worse than me all the time. They just want like the feeling of I have agency here, but I can also, if I play well, I can upside someone else, or all that stuff. And in that, we should give player like both real option and the fake option, like rock paper scissors.
Yeah,
like rock paper scissors really present fake options to people, but most people don't really think those. They think, wow, this is 3 very fair options, right? Mm-hmm. In reality, it's not an option. Whatever you choose, you have 50% win rate. But
yeah, true. Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting perspective. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think influencing the feelings of the players without influencing gameplay too much is definitely a big challenge. So I'm curious to see if you'll manage to do that. Yeah, sounds very difficult.
Yeah. Well, I don't really plan to solve it anytime soon. There's something in my mind.
Okay. Yeah, I see. Yeah, it's an interesting thought. Yeah, something to wonder about.
You only need to answer this if you want to. Are you already working on your next game?
Not yet. I've made a little mobile puzzle game as like an in-between project, but just a minor free mobile game that I'm gonna release sometime soon, probably. And for the next big commercial game, we have some ideas, but we haven't started development yet. So it's still completely open. Could still be anything. Could be single player. Could be multiplayer. If it's multiplayer, then it's probably gonna be PvE co-op, but could also be single player. I don't know. There's still lots of options. But we probably don't want to make a live service. We probably just want to make a game in 1 or 2 years or something, and then just move on to the next game. That's the plan for now.
Thronefall probably made enough money for you to expand your team if you want. Mm-hmm. Do you want to like expand the team?
I don't think so. I think we'll just keep working with the 2 of us for now. And I guess there's one model that I've seen a lot of indie developers do that I think is reasonable. And that is you kind of develop the vision of the game in a very small team, like similar to what you did almost. Like you develop the core vision for Mechabellum in a team of 2, right? What it sounds like. And then once you know what the game is supposed to be, then you bring new people into the team so that you can basically finish it faster or make content for it faster. And maybe you even do that with freelancers, right? So you're like, okay, we know what this game is supposed to be now. So now we're going to hire 5 freelancers to help us. And then after that, it's just the 2 of us again. I can imagine something like this as well. But yeah, I don't think we're too keen to grow too quickly because we have, or I have seen a lot of indie game developers that have regrets about growing too quickly, where they're like, now we have a burn rate of like 50,000 per month. And that sounds very stressful. So yeah, we're trying to avoid that.
Yeah, a bigger team definitely is more stressful. Don't really recommend it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm happy to hear that it's working out for Mechabellum. That's really, really nice.
Yeah. For now we are here and we are like paying our bills. Like that's something I'm actually grateful. Like this. I'm not sure what is your situation in Europe, but here in China, like if you stay alive, that's already a win. If you company stay alive already, already win. You just want to stay in the 2-person team. That's just amazing. I have always think that the FTL developers, the Into Bridge developers, they are a small team. I think that's takes strength to resist the temptation to like make a bigger game. That's definitely and I think you are definitely you are doing good here.
Paul and I are also just scared of becoming maybe people managers a bit too much because we really like working on the game, and we're a bit scared that if we add like 5 more team members, then one of us will just be will just not be working on the game anymore. We'll just do people management.
Yeah.
Also not something we want to do.
Or you feel like do overtimes all the time.
Yeah, or that like work till midnight every day. Exactly.
Yeah, that's probably my life. Well, kind of like a during daylight, I don't really have stuff I would like to be done. I only just wait until everybody out of the office, and then I do do the game stuff. That's it.
Well, that only means you'll get an extra thank you for making time for this talk, man. This is really awesome. I really enjoyed chatting with you. And also, I think it's always cool to know the people behind the games you play. Very cool, good stuff.
Thank you so much for inviting me. And Thronefall actually is like one of my favorite game recently, recent year, especially since I'm not I don't really have that much spare time, and Thronefall is the one game where I can get into very easily, and there's lots of smart design in it. We are learning, since we are making a PvE game, we actually are learning from Thronefall.
Nice. Yeah, I think I subconsciously also probably stole from Mechabellum a little bit when we were making Thronefall. I really like the 4 choices, for example. We have a similar thing in Thronefall, right, where you can often choose between 4 upgrades. So there might have been some inspiration there, maybe.
Oh yeah, we are actually playing your endless mode because we want to make a more replayable PvE game. So I'm very delighted to see the endless mode from Thronefall. Now there's something we can learn more.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting design where each level you get to play several days, but the days keeps increasing. All that stuff. I think that's very interesting. At the beginning, when I heard the endless mode in Thronefall, I thought it's just a map where there's just so many days in a map. When I played, I think, okay, they are changing maps every few days, and that stuff that definitely is more interesting than just staying on one map.
I agree, and also it solves the problem of needing infinite content on one map, right? We don't have enough upgrades that you can keep playing on one map forever. But one thing I will say about this one learning from the endless mode is that people are not the biggest fan of the changing maps thing. I think if we would give players a choice, they would be like, yeah, I want to just keep playing on the same map till I die. I think if they had a choice, they would pick that. Because it's more satisfying from a fantasy perspective to be like, oh, okay, I built this up as big as possible, and I can build even bigger and even bigger. And it's if somebody comes along and is like, now you have to restart, then it's like,
Do you think, this is just come my mind. Do you think if you have this kingdom, but you have multiple towns, and for the first level you play on the first town for 3 days, then you move to another town, but your first town didn't get wiped out, and on level 5 you revisit your first town and build that town a little bit further. So basically you are building more and more towns in this kingdom, and in the end you just take a turn to play in each town.
That's interesting. Yeah, maybe that could be interesting. I think it's mostly that people are not so keen of something permanently being deleted, right? So if it's I've spent so much time building this and now it's just gone and I'm never gonna see it again, I think that's a bit frustrating for people. It's also a problem we had with our other game, Islanders, where it's just whenever you go to a new island, the other one is just gone. You're never gonna see it again. And that's not something people seem to like. But I think if it's, for example, saved somewhere or you can revisit it later, I think that probably makes it better. Yeah, good point.
Oh, cool. It's always interesting to learn from fellow game developers. I didn't anticipate you are considering making a PvP game, and we are considering making a PvE game, and somehow we are exchanging notes here.
Yeah, true. Yeah, man, if you have any more questions or need input on anything else, feel free to just send me an email. I'm totally willing to share all the insider knowledge that we have.
Yeah,
All
cool.
right, cool. Let's wrap it up then. I'll just stop the recording.